So up next, we have Simiso, if you'd like to come on.
As I free the words, I become blind as a man in love. My focus becomes optimum, my tongue flows with rivers of hands and metaphors, my aim changes. I become wise beyond my age, unless the mind stuck in a cage. I haven't been. Seriously writing since on this page and force rage as inscribed on my face. As inscribed is also on my face, I am slash. I divide dates and fractions, running passages of poetry to show vast divisions. I am so vested as to visions. About my missions in life, I cut a valentic big stroke, I strike, I raise a poke, I can send messages. But when I become a joke, when I put my initials choke on words of discouragement, I am slash fire, I'll take you higher as you desire. I'm sent by the Messiah, and I'm so high, and I'm so high. Ashes to ashes, slashes to slashes. Welcome to my world, welcome to my world. Greetings everyone, my name is Simiso, they call me /Fire Sokhela. I'm a poet, an author, a creative writer, a web and SEO specialist. I've come across many platforms all over, and what I've noticed, the guys who are the tech guys are usually seen as the guys who are shy behind the desk. It's the guys, they don't notice until they have a problem, but that has all changed. I like how women are now more involved. Please give the women in this room a big hand. Also, when it comes to the whole digital space, South Africa seems to be left behind, especially when it comes to the decision makers. Have you guys seen how hard it is explaining where the marketing budget is going to when it comes to anything that has to do with digital marketing? Like we're having to explain, like they just expect instant results, instant gratification. I wish they were here, like to be part of this session and kind of understand what happens, what goes on into all of this. Like majority of the time, what you do during the day doesn't take as much effect as what you do in the evening. Have you noticed? Like if you're busy on any platform that has to do with search engine optimization, digital marketing, content creation, obviously most creative at night. Most of the content that you write that is the most relevant is when it's nice and quiet. But are you paid for that time when you're doing it at night? Not really. So when it comes to what I've noticed, when it comes to search engine optimization, a lot of people, especially as I'm saying, the decision makers, don't yet understand. I deal a lot with government work, and I must tell you, it is such a headache. First of all, when you're doing the proposal, you need to give away everything you want to do. And then when you have given everything you want to do, you still have to explain why you're doing it. And they still tell you what to put in your budget. And I've got a friend who started, I think she started working for Aha. I think when Aha took over, and I think when they rebranded the Gateway Hotel, she got a job to become their digital marketing specialist. And then she got there, she only had a desk. There was no computer, there was no laptop, there was nothing there. That showed that the people who were hiring her just understood they need a digital marketing person, but they don't understand why. And the way SEO is actually moving, in my perspective, I think on average, internationally, the guys from all over the world realize that we're more creative than them, and they keep I'm sure anyone who's got on LinkedIn, you've seen how you always receive notifications of jobs that have to do with search engine optimization or the digital space. Obviously, they're looking for cheaper labor and whatnot. And what I've also noticed, in terms of Durban, Joburg, Cape Town, if you had an opportunity to work anywhere else, where would you work?
Cape Town.
Cape Town, why?
The mountain.
Well, they want to create their own NASDAQ, that side. So it's in terms of the tech startup, mostly are based in Cape Town. Amazon also based in Cape Town. So you could say in terms of tech startup, Cape Town is the place you should be at?
Okay, the main reason for most people, it's because we are undervalued in KZN. Even if you're doing a pay scale search, Devon doesn't understand how much work goes into search engine optimization. Even when you're looking at the different companies, especially, I would say government, yes, also in the private sector. A lot of companies are owned by old bullies who've always done the things the same way. They know, I know everyone in the city, they're gonna give me business, they've got that mentality. So now when it comes to adapting to learn new things, it becomes a bit of a headache. So I've noticed that in Joburg, the pay scale is quite higher. In Cape Town, it's extremely higher. And then it shows that the people who are there in that space are already understanding what we've got going. And I'm so happy, I am so excited to meet other people who are doing what we do behind the scenes. That's so exciting for me. So I basically run a digital agency. I didn't start off as a digital agency. When back in high school, I just put it that way, I started my first internet cafe because I was so fascinated with the digital side of things and technology. And in my head, I was like, okay, I'm never gonna work ever again in my life. And so here I am. I haven't worked. I've never been registered under somebody's company to be an employee. And I don't lie to you guys. It's been the most hectic thing ever. Like having to explain certain things that you've learned online to people is so hard. Especially because majority of the information that we do have, realistically speaking, most of it we've gotten from YouTube. Sometimes you attend a college or a session and then you realize the person who's teaching this is teaching from an old textbook they also don't understand. So majority of the time when you really need authentic, realistic information that has to do with the digital space, you need to go online and follow people like Neil Patel and a few others. And then you just literally understand what really goes on. So when it comes to the reason I'm sharing my story, it's because I know majority of people in this room, correct me if I'm wrong, are working for a certain company that has to do with what they're doing as a career. So have you seen how you get like so squashed into following a line? Like you have to follow that line, like the rules of this company are like this. This is how we work, this is how we do things, and therefore you also have to follow suit because obviously there's a lot of, I've noticed with some companies, there's a lot of boxes you have to tick first before you actually get what you want and get it approved and all of that. So when it comes to what I'm currently busy with, I've got Awali Solutions, I've got Awali Academy, which I recently started, which is teaching kids digital skills as well as a bit of robotics and some coding. The whole idea for me is our kids shouldn't fall behind. We unfortunately got to understand some of these things at a late stage. So I really believe that our kids should actually learn at primary school and high school level what all of this is about. So then we've got a huge problem with unemployment, but there's so many opportunities online that have to do with what we do. And the reason people are not getting that is because they're not even doing any of those things. So during lockdown, I did, I think, around 57 courses online. So because I felt like, okay, I've got free time now, my clients don't want me to see me physically, half of the time I'm not going anywhere. So I went online, I went on LinkedIn Learning and a few other platforms, and I started like learning a few things. I just got information overload, of course, because some of the stuff that I did learn there, I couldn't really implement the way I wanted to. And then I got a crazy idea. We started a multi-service app, it's called Arrow Touchdown, with the objective of trying to fuse different services into one. I don't want to lie to you, it was so hectic trying to do SEO for so many services, and I'm learning as we go. And what I like the most is when it comes to what SEO has to offer and how things work. I had a client, I think their name is Lockup Storage. So I was given a very clear task by James Fisser. He's the guy behind Lockup Storage. He said, Simiso, this is what I need from you. I need you to be fully dedicated to my website and make sure I rank on top of Google, and I must rank on top of my competitors. He gave me his competitors, and then when I got a phone call from Cape Town from one of his competitors offering me a job, then I was like, okay, I've done a good job. Because now, yeah. And then the second thing that happened was he got a call from them wanting to buy him out. I won't mention who the competitor is. What he did, he wore he wore a shorts, a vest, and some flops and whatnot. And then what he said was, I just want to give them a tour of my place, but I'm not going to sell to them. So they was just trying to show that he didn't care about them that much. But for me, that was overwhelming and very exciting because it means I've done something right. Obviously, I did most of the work in the evening and whatnot. And obviously, every time they come in the morning, clocking in at 8 to come and do work, I had actually done work in the evening. Therefore, I'd look good compared to them. It was just a game we were playing, and I noticed they tried reporting me for so many things on Google. I'd get a report, I'd get a call. I was like, okay, I'm excited because now I'm really engaging these guys, and I'm giving the guys who are getting paid in Cape Town time of their life, because now they kind of like have this guy, random guy, they don't know who's this guy. They started searching around trying to find who's this guy. How is he doing this? It's just that I paid attention, I created the correct content, and I know sometimes, guys, when we are technical, the reason I didn't prepare a technical presentation explaining all of that, because I felt like we're coming here to connect. And for me, I'd be excited to know everyone in the room kind of thing, and we engage even further, because I feel like majority of the time in such settings, it's like somebody's gonna speak over everyone's head. I'm sure you've got some questions, not questions to me precisely, but a question to somebody else who's also doing the same thing. Hey, do you also have this problem? Do you also have this issue? And I feel this session is a very powerful one. Please give Mondo a round of applause for organizing this. It's very exciting, and at the same time, there's so much we have and we can share. There is so much to share. There's so much information that's available on the internet. There's so much information, things that you've tried. Luckily, I'm also on the side of web design, so I kind of experience. I know when you're doing digital marketing and you still have to go to the tech guy, tell him what to do, and then he doesn't do it correctly. You have to come back and all of that. So for me, I feel like this kind of setup is on point. In closing, I'm just going to share a few tools I use. Whether you like them or not, it's up to you. I use Ubersuggest, Moz, RankMath Pro. I've noticed when you're using RankMath, the normal one, versus, what's the other one? What's the other guy?
Yes.
Yoast, yeah, I kind of moved away from Yoast, that's why I'm... So RankMath, for me, it was also, what I liked about it was actually the feature, what they did, what we've also noticed with everything that's new. The older guy becomes the boss, having all the subscribers and everything, and they like lose the plot somewhere, somehow. Then the new guys, obviously they study who's already there, and they try and improve on what they've got. So that's why you find that some plugins and some systems are always going to be a better version of the previous one, just because of that. So try by all means not to fall into that trap of you being the older guy and there's a new guy who comes up with new stuff. The other one I use, obviously, Google Analytics. I like using ClickUp. I know ClickUp has nothing to do with SEO. I like using ClickUp because obviously we are human. We forget. We need some reminders. We need some engagement. We need to have like a proper content plan so we'll be able to have like the correct information out there. And then the other platforms I use, especially this one, Writer. Guys, we're not all writers. I've got 2 books, I'm a published author, but it's not easy writing. Like having to put together content on a regular basis for the same thing is not easy. I noticed there's Hollywood Bets here. Is it? Yes. So I was reading their content and I was there. So when I read their content said they sponsored R1 million. They sponsored R1 million to the business plan Lions Den business plan competition. So I was there. I know that they didn't sponsor that, but I think the person who wrote the content put it in such a way that you can't tell that they didn't sponsor the R1 million. It's when you read the content, it sounds like, well, they just left out a few words that caused it to seem like they sponsored. But it was an element of the creativity of that person. So what I'm saying is, the app, the system that I use, or the platform I use for copywriting ideas, I'm not saying take the content from there and just paste it on the blog or wherever. I'm just saying use it as a guide to actually get, it's called Writer, R-Y-T-R. So Writer is for helping you come up with copywriting content. So when you generate the content, it takes like seconds to generate the content. But when it generates the content for you, read through the content, add a human element to it. But at the end of the day, you will have like a guide when it comes to producing content that fits within, what's the term that you guys using IDA, the IDA formula. So then for you to kind of have, obviously as a human, you're gonna go creative and forget about AIDA. So for you to keep to the AIDA formula, having such a platform will help you in that regard, that you're still following the guidelines of AIDA, attention, interest, desire, what's the last one? Action. Attraction, which one? Yes. So at least when it comes to that, that's what I use the platform for. And then another thing that you need to pay attention to is Google My Business. Majority of big companies, they do so hectically bad when it comes to Google My Business, or Google Business Profile now as it's called. I don't know how many times I've traveled in Durban, I get there, the company is no longer there, or the information they've got there is not properly written in a way that it's going to showcase what they're really about. So what I'm saying is, even if you're doing SEO and everything else, check out, make sure that on each and every description, you properly write the content there as well in a witty way. That's also going to help you rank, because obviously Google My Business is the first thing that pops up besides our organic content or the organic websites that we try and make rank up. So then make sure that you also engage that properly. Guys, thank you very much for listening to me. Hope I didn't take too much of your time.
I don't know, Claudia, if you'd like to just go and point out to whoever will actually pose the question and who they'd like to pose it to, if anybody or everybody, I don't know.
Am I nominating people to have a question?
Well, you'll pick whoever wants to ask a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's assuming a flood of questions.
Cool.
I am actually already
Go for it.
I'll just stand up so everybody can. Yeah, so, well, Rob, I can ask you this question whenever because I mean you. But to Mike and Simiso is that, so we've touched on what's happened in the past with SEO and what's currently happening with SEO. I'm really curious to know, like, how do we incorporate SEO into Web 3.0? Like maybe around like the blockchain, like all of that technology in Web 3.0. How does SEO work in that space?
So, honest opinion, right now I don't really care. It's on my honest opinion. When it comes to SEO, I don't really care because SEO is a long-term play, and when you're playing in a long-term game, the redundant technologies are the ones that you want to really play with. You don't want to play with the new sexy toy when you've got a 6-month, 12-year plan ahead of you, because you're going to invest in it and then it's gone. So from an SEO perspective, you want to really work with content. You want to work with things that you know are going to give you that long-term play. It's why people say stick with white hat regardless, because you're going to play with a whole pot of grey or black hat techniques, and then something's going to change. You're going to lose all of that. So play the long game, play the right road, and then you're going to get what you're looking for. Understand that long play, understand where you're heading, and I think you got the right road. But I will caveat with one extra piece, and that is there's a lot of stuff that is happening in the trendy space that actually falls into content. And then if you get down to it, the mechanics of that content have an SEO backbone. Bitcoin will always fall into an application. It's a hard end, back end code that needs a front end application. That application is going to sit with its own set of code. There's going to be an SEO structure on the back of that, or at least a user experience. From a marketing perspective, we're going to market that through a PPC or a growth marketing campaign, and that usually means we've got a site sitting somewhere that needs to be SEO. That's going to follow content, SEO, structures, etc. So yes, blockchain, but in terms of taking that to market, it's going to follow normal SEO-based rules. So there's a content conversation which will have a backbone into these things in most cases. Normally, what you find, especially with a lot of these technologies, is they tend to fall back onto some sort of redundant base most of the time.
Give him a round of applause. Yes, guys, when it comes to new technologies, it's not everyone who adopts it at the early stage, and it's so easy to fall into a trap of losing where you are and where you are going because you're trying to adopt each and every new platform. It's important to learn about it, understand it, and also ensure that it doesn't become something that you're completely blind about, because if you do that, when eventually it does come into effect in a certain way that affects what you do, then you'll struggle. So part of my slogan for my academy is learn, adapt, grow. So no matter which context you look at from, you need to ensure that you always learn, adapt, and grow, because it doesn't matter what platforms are there or what new thing is developed, but the key thing is for you to just keep adapting. He's definitely right about sticking to the base, because it all comes down to the bottom. No matter how high it goes, it always comes back to the bottom. Yeah.
Is that-
Question over there, yeah.
Question. I just want to ask with regards to Metaverse, because I think Mark Zuckerberg launched this new headset for Metaverse. What's the future with regards to SOE, with regards to the Metaverse, where now we can interact, augmented reality, VR? What's the change? Are we seeing any sort of form of disruption that will take place of what we were doing for the last roughly 8 or 10 years or 15 years or so?
So I touched on it briefly earlier. I'm not entirely sure what the metaverse actually looks like. What is nice about this sort of virtual environment or an augmented reality is that it opens the world up as we know it to people with disabilities of some kind. And so maybe that's the direction it's going to go, which is kind of cool, because anybody can be sitting at home and they're enjoying whatever it is that everybody else is enjoying, kind of thing. So it becomes a lot more inclusive when we start looking at what the metaverse could possibly be. But everything I've seen so far is basically just a rehash of virtual reality, of, like I said earlier, Second Life and things like that. But if we get into more immersive environments where it becomes more tactile, then possibly it becomes something completely different. But again, I'm not entirely sure what it looks like. So yeah.
Yeah, so Zuckerberg, IBM, all the guys that are trying to play in the space, all of them are very open about the fact that no one really knows what it's going to end up looking like. I think it's going to have many permutations. I think we're going to see virtual spaces develop that will look a lot like gaming environments, but I don't think everyone's going to adapt to them. I don't think we're all of a sudden just going to jump into these spaces and do these things. But I do, and I think that a large portion of the metaverse is going to look like what happened to the Internet of Things. Most of us are engaging in the Internet of Things and we don't even know it. The devices in the back of this room are connected to some sort of cloud infrastructure. Like we're in an environment that's connected to the Internet of Things, but we don't know. It just happens. So the Internet of Things didn't go, hey, consumers, connect with us. It just did. And so I think the metaverse is going to be a bit of both in my mind. But if it's going to move at the rate that they say it's going to move, it's going to sit in a lot of stuff that we sit on. Whether or not it sits completely outside the internet, I don't think it can. It is a piece of the internet. It's just if you look at the backbone of the metaverse, the backbone of the metaverse is a faster, more interconnected and dynamic server infrastructure than what the internet sits on. It actually doesn't even exist yet. Amazon are close to it, but it doesn't exist. So you're working in an environment that resembles the internet. So my feeling is it's just an accelerated view of what we already have. We've been sitting in a space for so long that innovation in the internet needs to hyperchange. And so what the power players are doing is they're saying we've been sitting here for too long. We've got to create energy and hype so that we can hyperchange this vehicle to create new opportunity. And I think that's what's...
For me, it's like, in terms of 4D, obviously people went from 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, and so forth. And from a structure point of view, that's the direction that I feel we're working with in terms of like 3D printing, for example. We've been accustomed to the normal way of printing things. Now, if 3D printing is introduced, obviously it's a different look and feel as to what can be achieved. When it comes to the space itself related to SEO, I think, realistically speaking, it's exactly what he's saying. It's a gaming environment from a look and feel point of view. Because even if you're using what's those glasses called again? If you're using that platform, it's more or less the same exact thing. But from a perspective of SEO, I think it will take a really long time for us to even change or have any structural changes as to how we're doing things now. I think it will take a long time because people are not early adopters at most, and it takes quite a while for people to even understand, as you say, in terms of IoT, Internet of Things, where it's existing in smart homes, but we're not even realizing it. I saw yesterday there was a video I think in Dubai. They flew the first car, and then when I looked at it, I was like, this is a drone that's huge, and it's not really what I saw in the movies in the past. It's not like a car that just moves. It's actually like, let me hold it there.
Sorry, just one last thing on the... I think we need to remember that SEO came about because there was a volume of content on the internet that needed to be catalogued. And that's why the search engine was created. And then optimization was the way in which it was cataloged was not the way in which we would like. And so we needed a way to be able to optimize that. So we're only really going to see the effects and the need for optimization at a point in which there's enough content inside the metaverse that those are going to, one, need to be cataloged, and two, need to be optimized in such a way inside their own environment for meta content as opposed to all other content. So whether or not that even becomes a problem, I don't know.
Yeah, well, as I was saying a little earlier as well, search is moving to another platform, and that's the only time we have to worry about those things.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have time for one more question. Sandra, did you have a question already? Yes. Can we talk about analytics 4?
Yes.
I hate it. Actually, no. It's a massive work in progress. Every day I log in, something else has changed, which is pleasing because a lot of the various functions that we had and the universal analytics went away, and now they're slowly creeping them back in. The filters seem to have come back, and it's starting to get a little bit easier. Custom events, implementing those. When my development team get it right, I'll let you know. Throwing shade at everybody here. I'm going to be the most liked person tomorrow when I walk into the office, but that's future Rob's problem. Yeah, but that's pretty much my take in a nutshell.
Is there a refined version of the question?
There's another question.
Sorry, no, refined version?
I think specifically related to it falling away next year.
As in the UA falling away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there an immediate need to switch over to 4, or is it just going to become
No, there is an immediate, urgent need to move to 4. As in, you should wake up tomorrow morning and install 4.
Yes.
So what happens is that so in a nutshell, come on.
Yep.
Sorry, I've been literally touring with my clients. Yes, if it doesn't connect in 2 seconds, I'll give you that verbal version. It's just easier.
Just going to piggyback in the meantime. You can run both versions, Universal and Analytics 4 at the same time. And even if you're not going to report on Analytics 4, get it collecting historical data as quickly as you can.
Okay, it's not going to connect. The simple version is this. UA code has been deemed illegal in Europe, does not meet GDPR requirements. If you run any sites in the EU, you cannot run Google Analytics. Full stop. You will be fined, game over. So it's an illegal way of tracking data. So Google has to catch up, and it has to conform, and it has to manage that. GA4 is its solution. The biggest primary issue is that Google Analytics from the universal perspective, what it does is it captures information that it hasn't asked for, and it provides it in that infrastructure. So in other words, from day dot, it just captures everything that it can find. The biggest shift is that Google Analytics 4, you have to decide what you want to track. Set it up and run it like that. And only from the day you decide to set and track it and start tracking that, will it start to track that. When you decide to track it like that, you can track everything. Theoretically, everything that is in UA is trackable through GA4, but you have to make the decision to set it up and structure it like that. When I say in theory, it's bloody difficult. But the theory is there, the infrastructure is there through events and conversions. But the biggest problem is that because essentially it's illegal in GDPR regions, that GDPR infrastructure is setting the tone for international regulation. So it's going to become the international regulation over time. And so it's going to fall away. And so Google's approach on it is that in July next year, UA code falls away, and so does your access to all of that historical data. So if you need to start tracking now, because from whatever day you have, you start tracking now. That is your entire history as of now. And so that's, you've got it, your first priority is to start tracking. The next priority is to start setting up your reports to match your conversions that fit your site. And those are your two priorities. Now the second priority you've got until July to figure out. But your first priority is to start tracking immediately.
I also have a question. Are we able to export the historical data and import it in the new one?
No, because the data has been illegally captured.
I can actually answer that one. Tiara?
I've done it.
Just don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
So the thing here is you're quite right. At that point, the historical data comes to an end. So that's why it's so important to get new analytics in and running as quickly as possible. You will still be able to access the old analytics, but again, it's not going to grow anymore, and that's the end of it. So what you do,
they're falling away.
They're going to put it away, but they haven't given a sunset time as to when you're going to be able to access it. But so. Not yet. They still say you'll be able to access it, but not that you will be able to do anything with it. So it's why we've exported it.
If you do need it, just use the Google Analytics API. Just run every single metric and dimension to collect that data through the API, and you'll be fine. Everything. From the word go, from when you set up your universal analytics.
Yeah, but you need a server that's going to hold all that data.
Correct.
Yeah. Not many people have that server. Eh?
Spoiled brat. Sorry guys, I started
Thanks. Yeah, that was a pet project of mine for a long time, and yeah, it's a big project. So